Hello dear students, welcome to the class on the diagrammatic representation of data in biostatistics. So one of the most convincing and appealing ways in which we can represent the statistical results is with the help of diagrams and graphs. So they give you a complete view of the entire data and we can easily comprehend the information which is presented, and they will give us a great memorizing effect also, and they will also help us to compare data, and we will go to a comparison of data represented in the form of tables and diagrams. So here you have a table where you get different concentrations of a particular drug. So these are the different concentrations of a particular drug used in an animal to inhibit the formation of, take for example, inflammation. And you can see with the administration of each drug you can see the percentage of inhibition. You can see the percentage of inhibition of inflammation using different doses of the drug. You can see it is increasing. With a higher concentration, you are getting a higher inhibition of inflammation. So this is in animal 1, this is in animal 2, this is in animal 3, this is the average of the 3, and this is the standard deviation. So this is how data is represented in a table. Now, when the same data is represented in a graph, so this is the same data which is represented in a graph with increasing concentration of the drug. So here on x-axis we have plotted the different drug concentrations, and on y-axis we have plotted the percentage inhibition, the average percentage inhibition, and we can see the trend of increase of percentage inhibition by increased concentration of the drug. So this is the table and this is the graph. So when we compare tabular and diagrammatic data representation, what all can we see? The tables, they contain precise figures, whereas the diagrams give you an approximate data. And when you take a table, in a table you can represent more information, whereas that much of information cannot be represented on a graph. Here all the inhibitions, all the data of all the animals are given here, but in the graph only the average data is given. And compared to a table, graph will give you visual appeal, and it is more impressive to a layman. So these are some of the comparisons of a table and a graph, and also graphs give you the various trends, that is, this trend can be seen. It is not a linear increase. Up to 9 microgram per ml concentration, it is having a drastic increase, whereas from 9 to 15 you can see it is only a slow increase, like that. So the trend can also be understood from a graph than from a table. So you can use graphs or diagrams for the representation of data. So in this class we will study the diagrammatic presentation of data. You can represent data as one-dimensional, two-dimensional, three-dimensional diagrams, as well as in the form of pictograms and cartograms. So the example of a one-dimensional data is bar diagram. Two-dimensional graphical diagrammatic representation is in the form of rectangles, squares, etc. Three-dimensional can be in the form of cubes, cylinders, spheres, etc. And there are pictograms and cartograms. So we will go to each one of them. So the first one is one-dimensional diagram. So one-dimensional diagram, usually we use bar diagrams. In one-dimensional diagrams or bar diagrams, they are most common. They are the most common types of diagrams used in practice. And the bar is a thick line whose width is shown for attention. Here the width doesn't matter, but only the length matters. That is why it is called as a one-dimensional diagram. Here the width, it can be of a smaller width, but here what we only count is the length. Okay. So the different types of bar diagrams are, there are 6 types of bar diagrams. First one is simple bar diagram, second is subdivided bar diagram, Third is again a subdivided bar diagram. Third is a multiple bar diagram. Then percentage bar diagram, deviation bar diagram and broken bar diagram. So, these are the different types of bar diagrams or one dimensional data representation. So, for that we first go to the simple bar diagram. So, the simple bar diagram is usually used to represent only one variable. So, here you can see survey is conducted on the type of pets owned by people in a city, we say. So, you can see the number of rabbits here, the number of dogs, cats, goldfish, hamster, etc. So, here we represent only a single variable, that is the number of animals of each kind or the number of people who keep pets. Okay. So, this is a simple bar diagram. Then next is a subdivided bar diagram. The bar is subdivided into different categories. Here you can see the bar is subdivided into different categories, as you can see from the different colors. Here, what is shown here? This is the distribution of confirmed cases, fatality rate and very severe cases by age for COVID-19 in a country. So, x axis represent the various age groups 0 to 9, 10 to 19, 20 to 29, 30 to 39, like that, up to an age greater than 80. So, these are the different age groups, and you take this age group, that is people above the age of 80. There, this represents the death rate or the fatality rate. This represents the number of very severe cases. This represents the confirmed cases of COVID-19. So, coming to this age group, that is from 70 to 79, you can see a lesser number of fatality rate as compared to people above 80, then more very severe cases, the confirmed cases. So, such type of a diagram where different categories can be represented in a single bar is called as a subdivided bar diagram. So, many categories, that is the number of confirmed cases, the number of very severe cases and the number of fatalities is being represented in this single bar. So, this will represent, the entire bar will represent the total number, which is then subdivided into the various numbers. So, this is how we use a subdivided bar diagram. So, this will help you in comparison in the different age groups. So, here you can see that the fatality or mortality is more in people of age above 80 compared to people in the age group 70 to 79, which is still lesser compared to the people in age group 60 to 69. So, this is called as a subdivided bar diagram. Next is this is again a subdivided bar diagram where you can see the number of students who have opted for different courses in a university in different time periods. Then we go to the multiple bar diagram. In a multiple bar diagram, two or more sets of interrelated data are represented. So, here this color represents the year 1999. So, all these bars with this color represents the year 1999, this represents 2000 and this color represents 2001. Now, this is regarding the sale of apples. You can see, you can compare the sale of apples in different years. Here you can see that the sale has shot up in 2001 compared to the other years, whereas in the case of oranges the sales were higher in 2000. In bananas the sales were high in 2001, for apricots it was 1999 and for grapes it was 2000. So, here you are representing in a single graph a number of variables together, but they are interrelated data. So, this is a multiple bar diagram. Then we go to a percentage bar diagram. Percentage bars are particularly useful in statistical work when we portray the relative changes in data. The length of the bars is equal to 100% and the segments are cut in these bars to represent the percentage of an aggregate. So, this represents the sales of 3 commodities, that is ice cream, chocolate bars and Coca-Cola, say for example in a particular country in various seasons of the year. So, the total percentage is represented. You can see every bar is of height 100. So, it has been converted into 100. The total value is converted to 100 and the percentage is taken. And you can now have a comparison. You say you take the case of Coke. There is a higher percentage of Coke sale in spring season compared to the other seasons of the year. There is a higher percentage of sale of ice cream in summer compared to other seasons of the year. Or you can compare the same season and the various commodities. So, when you take summer alone, you can see ice creams are sold more. In autumn, they are almost sold in the same rate. Here in spring, you can see Coke is sold more. So, this is called as a percentage bar. Then, next is a deviation bar. How do we represent data in a deviation bar? So, they are usually used for representing net qualities of excess or deficit. For example, the net profit, the net loss, the net export, the net import, net increase, net decrease, etc. So, such bars can have both positive and negative values. Usually, we show the positive values above the line and the negative values below it. So, you take this vertical deviation bar where you have a plot of monthly deviations from annual mean temperature. So, this is the annual mean temperature. In January, there has been an increase of around 5.7 or 8 degree Fahrenheit than the mean. In the month of April, there was a decline. In the month of October, there was an increase. In the month of September, the mean temperature was kept up the same. In the month of December, there was a slight decline, as you can see a small representation here. So, the upward bars represent increase and downward bars represent decrease. As you can see here, they are positive values and these are negative values. So, this is a deviation bar diagram and this is a vertical deviation bar, which gives you the increase or decrease in temperature in various months from the average temperature. Here again you can see in business field also this is being used. These upper bars represent the increase in sales and the downward bars represent the decrease in sales. Then there can be horizontal deviation bars also, where here the same representation of temperature can be seen. In January, you can see there is a decrease from the average temperature. In February also you can see a decline, in March the same, but in April you can see an increase in temperature, May again an increase, and the various values are given here. So, these represent the positive values and the left hand side represents the negative values. So, they represent decrease and these represent increase. So, you can use deviation bars either vertically or horizontally. The next one is broken bars. So, these are broken bars. In certain series, there will be wide variations in the values given. Some values may be very small and the others very large. So, in order to save space for the smaller bars of the series, you can break the large bars. Take for example, on x axis we are plotting the 7 observations A, B, C, D, E and F, and on y axis you have plotted their frequency. For A, the frequency is 10. For C, it is around 12 or 13. For D, it is around 19 or 18. But for E and F, they are way high. They are way up. That is, one is 215 and the other is 220. So, if you draw it on scale, you will require a graph of a greater dimension, which is not possible. So, when you use a graph of a greater dimension, these will all appear very small. So, what you do? You break this graph. You break it at 25 and you restart it at 205. You should show a break here. Otherwise, you cannot compare these values. Okay. So, the broken diagram is used for breaking the larger values. Again, you can see the sales of a particular commodity. This can be used in multiple bar diagrams also in Europe, in North America and the Pacific, and the various years are also shown. This represents 2010, 2011, 2012 and 2018, and the data from various countries is given, but in Europe it is way higher than in other countries. So, this bar has been broken. So, this is called as a broken bar diagram. So, these are the various types of one dimensional diagrams, that is the simple bar diagram, the subdivided bar diagram, multiple bar, percentage bar, deviation bar and broken bar. Now, we will go to the two dimensional diagrams. In one dimensional diagrams, we take into account only the length, but in two dimensional diagrams, the area will represent the data, and so the length and breadth both have to be taken into account. So, such diagrams are also called as area diagrams or surface diagrams. So, the area of the bars will represent the given data. Now, we will go to some examples. First one, rectangles. So, usually in two dimensional diagrams we use rectangles, squares and circles. So, first we go to rectangles. Rectangles are used to represent the relative magnitude of two or more values. The area of the rectangle is kept in proportion to the values. Rectangles are placed side by side for comparison, and we may represent the figures as they are given, or we may convert them to percentages and then subdivide the length into various compartments. Thus, the percentage subdivided rectangular diagram is more popular than subdivided rectangle, since it enables comparison to be made on a percentage basis. So, we will see what does it represent. So, here there are two families, and here is given the list of expenditure which is met by these two families in rupees. The total expenditure for family A is 5,000, whereas the total expenditure for family B is 8,000 in a particular month. Okay. So, this is the total expenditure. Out of this 5,000, family A uses 2,000 for food, 1,000 for clothing, house rent 800, fuel and lighting 400 and miscellaneous 800. Family B spends total 8,000, out of which 2,500 is spent for food, 2,000 is spent for clothing, 1,000 is spent for house rent. For fuel and lighting they use 500, for 2,000 for miscellaneous expenses. So, how we represent it in the form of a rectangle. Here we add one more table, that is we convert it into percentage. So, 2,000 by 5,000 into 100 is equal to 40. So, 40% of this expense is used for food, 20% of the expense is used for clothing. So, we are converting it into percentage. Here also we convert, when we convert it into percentage, we can see that 31% of the expense is for food, 25% is for clothing, 13% is for house rent, 25% for miscellaneous items. Now, we will construct a rectangular percentage diagram. Here this is family A and this is family B. So, here this is a percentage bar diagram where you can see the upper limit is 100. We have already found out the percentage. Take the case of family A. 40 is spent for food, 20 is spent for clothing, 16% for house rent, 8% for fuel and lighting, and 16% as miscellaneous expenses. For family B, 31% for food, 13% here for house rent, 6% for fuel and light. Okay, so this is bar diagram. It's a percentage bar diagram, but what difference can you see is the area. Why? Because family A has an expenditure of 5,000, whereas family B is having an expenditure of 8,000. So that is why the area is different. Okay, so here apart from the expenses, we are also taking into consideration, apart from taking the percentage, we are also taking into consideration the total expense that is met with, and proportionate to that value we are adjusting the area of this bar diagram. So we can even represent it as a bar diagram, represent it as two bar diagrams of same width. There we get only an idea about the percentage, but here we also get an idea about the total expense. Suppose you are giving for both bar diagrams, suppose you are giving the same width, then you will get only the percentage. But when you give two rectangles here, what we get is the total expense also. So that is the importance of such a diagram. So here two dimensions are coming. There are two dimensions coming into play here. Here the heights are the same because it's a percentage bar diagram, so the upper limit is always 100. So the height will be the same, but what you do is the width is different. Maybe you can divide it by 200 when you when you divide it by 2000. This also you divide by 2000. So 5000 divided by 2000 is 2.5. So here you can give the width as 2.5. 8000 divided by 2000 is equal to 4. So here you can give the width as 4. So the width here is 5000 divided by any arbitrary value. Let you take 2000. So when you divide 5000 by 2000, you are getting 2.5. So 2.5 is the width of this. You divide 8000 again by 2000, you get 4. So the width is 4. So that is how you can have a comparison. Then next is the next two-dimensional diagram is a square. The rectangular method of diagrammatic representation is difficult to use where the values of the items vary widely. The method of drawing a square diagram is comparatively simple. So for that we have to take the square root of the values of various items that are to be shown in the diagrams and then select a suitable scale to draw the squares. So this is comparatively easy than when you take a rectangle. In rectangle there will be two dimensions considered. So here you take a new data, that is the different countries are represented here, and this is the yield of rice in kg per acre from all these countries. So in USA it is 6,400, in Australia 1,600, UK 2,500, Canada 3,600 and India 4,900. So how do you represent it in the form of a square diagram? So here we need not find any percentage, here only values are given, there is no percentage given. So this is such kind of a data, this can easily be converted into a square. So for that what you do? So you list the, you tabulate the yield from various countries here, then what do? You find the square root of all these. So for 6,400 you get 80, you get 40, 50, 60, 70. Then what you do? You divide all these values, say by an arbitrary value 20. So you divide 80 by 20, you are getting 4, 40 by 20, 2, 50 by 20, 2.5, 60 by 20, 3, 70 by 20, 3.5. Then what you do? You construct squares from squares which are having a side of length this value. So for USA you will construct a square, all sides 4 centimeter in length. Then for Australia you construct a square with 2 centimeter dimension, UK 2.5, Canada 3 and India 3.5. So this is how you draw a square diagram. So from this and the scale should be given. So if you get a square of 4 centimeter square having each side of length 4 centimeter, then you have to decipher the value as 4 into 20 the whole square. This is how you are preparing a square. Then we go to another two-dimensional data representation, that is in the form of pie diagram or circular diagram. So here the total and component parts of the sectors can be shown in such diagrams. The area of a circle is proportional to the square of the radius, as we know. Now, while making comparisons, the pie diagram should be used on a percentage basis and not on an average basis. So, when you construct a square, we use the square roots. Just like that, we can also use the radius for a circle, since the area of a circle is proportional to the square of its radius. Now, what you do? So, usually we use it for comparisons. So, in constructing a pie diagram, the first step is to prepare the data so that various components can be transposed into corresponding degrees on the circle. So, we will see how. So, that is the first step. We have to prepare the data in such a way, and the next step is to draw a circle of appropriate size with a compass. The size of the radius depends upon the available space and other factors of presentation, and the third step is to measure points on the circle and representing the size of each sector with the help of a protractor. So, we will see how it is done. Here is given a data on the production of sugar in quintals in various countries: Cuba, Australia, India, Japan, Egypt, and this is the sugar production in quintals. So, how do you convert it into a pie diagram? First, you can construct a circle of a fixed radius of your choice depending upon the space available. Then what you do is you have to convert it into degree. The total of this circle is the total angle of this circle is 360 degree. So, you will first convert each sector into degree. For Cuba, it is 62, Australia 47. You take the total, it is 166. So, total production of sugar is 166, out of which 62 is contributed by Cuba. You convert it into degree for this particular circle. The total angle is 360. So, what do you do? 62 divided by 62 by 166 into 360 is equal to 134. 47 by 166 into 360 is 102. 35 by 166 into 360 is 76. 16 by 166 into 360 is 35. 6 by 166 into 360 is 13. So, you have found the angle of each country for each sector. Okay. Then you construct the pie diagram. So, here for Cuba it is 134. So, Cuba is having, so this area, this part of the circle is having an angle of 134 degree. Then Australia 102 degree. So, this is Australia 102 degree. Then India 76 degree. So, this is India. Then Japan here, and Egypt, this of only 13 degree. So, that is how a pie diagram can be constructed. So, this is directly from the value you are finding the angle, or from percentage also you can find the angle. From percentage also you can find the angle. So, this is all about two-dimensional diagrams. Now, we go to three-dimensional diagrams. Three-dimensional diagrams are those in which three dimensions, that is the length, width and height, are taken into account. They are also called as cubic diagrams. It may be drawn in the form of cylinders, blocks, spheres, etc. And when do we use them? They are used when the range of difference between the smallest and the largest values is very large. If there is huge difference between the smallest and the largest value, then we have to go for a three-dimensional bar diagram. And among three-dimensional bar diagrams, cubes are most popular and also the simplest to draw. But there are some limitations. That is, the three-dimensional diagrams have the same objectionable features as two-dimensional diagrams. That is, the side of the cube must be proportional to the cube root of the magnitude to be represented. It is impossible for the eye to read precisely such diagrams, and hence they are mostly used for the purpose of stimulating interest in popular articles where only a general impression is required. So, they will give you only a general representation. Then we go to pictograms and cartograms. First one is a pictogram. Pictograms are pictures used in representing statistical data. They are not abstract presentations like lines or bars, but they depict the kind of data which we deal with, and they are attractive and we can easily comprehend the data from them, and that is why it is used particularly for giving data to laymen. And for that, the pictorial symbol is to be selected carefully and it should be self-explanatory. So, you can see the trees in gardens. So, this is one garden, this is the other, where three types of trees are counted: pear, peach and orange. Here you can see one pear tree, here two, but one tree, one diagram, one picture represents four pear trees. Here one diagram represents, one diagram represents four trees. So, from this what you can understand, in this garden there are four pear trees. In this garden there are 4 into 4, 16 peach trees. Here 4 into 2, 8 orange trees. In the second garden we have 2 into 4, 8 pear trees, 4 into 4, 16 peach trees, and 3 into 4, 12 orange trees. Here in a class we count the number of people with type A blood group, type B, type AB and type O, and one such picture represents 5 people. So, here there are 6 such pictures, which means that 30 people are of type A. Here 5 into 5, 25 are of type B. Here 2 into 5, 10 are of type AB, and here you have 7 into 5, 35 are of type O. Here you can see the number of cans in a shop. Here one picture represents 20 cans. So, there will be 80 cans in this shop, and here you have 140 cans, like that. So, this is what a pictogram represents. Now, we go to cartograms. Cartograms are statistical maps used to give a quantitative information on a geographical basis. They are used to represent spatial distribution. The quantities on the maps can be shown in many ways, as through shades, or by dots, or by placing pictograms in each geographical unit, or by giving numbers in each geographical unit. So, for an example, we will take this. Here there are two maps of Africa, the African countries. The left side is the original map, which based on the area, but here you can see a slightly distorted map. So, this is a cartogram. This is not based on area, but this is based on the population. Okay. So, this representation is based on the area, whereas this is a distorted representation based on the population. For example, Nigeria is marked as yellow. You can see a size difference here. You can see a size difference where in the cartogram Nigeria appears bigger, but this is in terms of the population that we are plotting. But this is the original map which gives you the area, but this is a distorted cartogram which will give you the population. Okay. So, that is what is called as a cartogram. So, a cartogram is a map in which the geometry of regions is distorted in order to convey the information of another variable. So, the second variable we choose is population, but this is the original variable, that is the size of the country in terms of area. So, these are the different types of diagrams with which we can represent data. Thank you.